Okay, let's dive in. Have you ever looked at two things, I mean, really looked, and thought they were identical?
Uh-huh.
But then you spot this one. Tiny detail. Almost nothing.
Yeah.
And it just changes everything.
Yeah, that happens. Especially in design.
Exactly. And that's kind of what we're looking at today. We're doing a deep dive into luxury watches, specifically this new Bell & Ross release, the BR-05 Skeleton Phantom Ceramic.
Right.
And our mission really is to figure out how a watch can be called new when it looks, well, almost exactly like one from just last year.
It's a fascinating case study.
We want to unpack those tiny details, those subtle shifts, and, what they actually mean for the brand, for collectors, and, well, for you trying to make sense of it all. Because, honestly, when I first saw the announcement for this one, I did a double take. I thought, hang on, didn't we just cover this exact watch? Real deja vu moment.
Well, you're not wrong to feel that way. Watchmaking is often about these tiny differences, separating models. But this Bell & Ross situation, it's maybe an extreme example, really pushing the boundaries of subtlety. You've got to look really close.
So I was just seeing things. Because, yeah, at first glance, this new BR-05 Skeleton Phantom Ceramic looks like a carbon copy of the 2024 BR-05 Skeleton Black Ceramic.
Pretty much, yeah. Visually, very, very similar.
But then, and this was the real aha moment for me, you spot the difference, the 2024 version, it had white lume, the glow-in-the-dark stuff with shiny polished frames on the hands and markers.
Classic look, easy to read.
Right. But this new Phantom, it switches to black lume. And the hands and the hour markers themselves are also black finished. So that one change, just the color of the lume and the finish, it makes the whole thing incredibly dark. Properly monochromatic.
Yeah.
Like stealth mode activated.
It's a significant visual shift, even if it sounds small on paper. That black on black is a specific vibe. And beyond that look, there's another key difference,
yes,
right?
absolutely. Which is?
The production numbers. This new Phantom version, it's a limited edition. Only 500 pieces worldwide.
Ah, okay. So scarcity comes into play.
Exactly. Whereas last year's model, the one with the white lume, that's a standard production watch. You can theoretically just go and buy one. This distinction, limited versus standard, is huge for collectors. It adds that layer of exclusivity, that feeling of owning something rare, even if it looks almost identical to its sibling.
That makes sense. It's not just the watch, it's the story, the rarity. Now, about that Phantom look itself, that black on black thing, it's not exactly new for Bell & Ross, is it?
Oh, not at all. It's one of their absolute signature aesthetics, a real cornerstone.
But given how, I guess, minimal the change is here, does leaning so hard on an old favorite risk making this feel a bit less exciting? Maybe even like playing it too safe?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Balancing identity and innovation. And you're right, the Phantom look goes way back. The original BR-01 Phantom, that was 2007.
Wow, okay, so it's got pedigree.
Definitely. It's been a core part of their design language for, what, over 15 years now?
And they've used it a lot. I remember seeing it across different models, even when they updated the BR-03 line last year, right? The Phantom was there.
It was. So taking that established, popular Phantom colorway and applying it to a model that's already made entirely of black ceramic.
It just makes sense. Like, it feels almost inevitable. You almost wonder why they didn't do it sooner.
It's a very logical step, yes. And because that aesthetic tweak, the lume and hand finish, is really the only practical difference.
Let me guess, everything else is the same.
You got it. All the core specs are identical to the standard BR-05 skeleton black ceramic. Same engine under the hood. Just a different paint job, metaphorically speaking.
Okay, so walk us through those specs again, just as a refresher.
Sure. You've got that black ceramic case, brushed and polished finishes. It's 41 millimeters across, pretty wearable, and nice and slim at 11.2 millimeter thick.
Still got the sapphire crystal on top.
Yep, flat sapphire crystal. And a display case back, too, so you can see the movement. Plus, the screw-down crown at 3 o'clock with the guards, giving it that solid 100 meters of water resistance.
And strap options. Still the same choices.
Still the same. You can get it on the integrated black ceramic bracelet, which looks really sharp, or a more casual black rubber strap.
Both with black clasps, I assume?
Both finished with stainless steel folding clasps, but yeah, they have a black PVD coating to match the case. Physical vapor deposition. It's a tough coating.
Got it. And the dial layout itself, the skeleton part.
Identical design to other skeleton BR-05s, like the skeleton golden people might know. Transparent sapphire surface, you see the workings underneath. Simple, time-only display. Very clean.
And that black lume, You said it still glows.
It does. Despite looking black in daylight, the Super-LumiNova compound used will glow green in the dark. Now, it's generally true that colored lume, like black or blue or whatever,
It's maybe not quite as bright.
usually, yeah, it tends to be a little less intense than the standard green or white stuff, but it definitely still functions. You'll be able to read the time in the dark.
Okay, so under that skeletonized dial, what's ticking away?
It's the Bell & Ross caliber BRCAL.322-1. It's an automatic movement, powers this and the other skeleton BR-05s.
Performance spec.
Runs at a standard 4 hertz, or 28,800 vibrations per hour. And it offers a pretty decent power reserve of about 54 hours.
Now, this movement, the BRCAL.322-1, what's the story there? Is it fully in-house?
Ah, well, that's where it gets interesting, especially considering the price point. The BRCAL.3B2-1 is actually based on the Sellita SW300 eBosch.
Okay, so a Sellita base.
Exactly, but it's heavily modified for Bell & Ross. They work with Sellita to produce this version exclusively for them, with extensive skeletonization, open-worked plates and bridges to give it that unique visual appeal you see through the dial.
Right, so pros and cons there, I guess.
Definitely. The pro is that the Sellita SW300 architecture is absolutely proven. It's reliable, it's robust, parts are available, servicing is generally straightforward.
Makes sense. Less hassle down the line.
But the con, or at least the point of debate for many enthusiasts, is paying close to 5 figures, nearly $10,000.
For a watch running on what's fundamentally a Sellita movement, even a heavily modified one.
Precisely. Some collectors feel that at that price, they expect something fully conceived and built in-house by the brand. It becomes a question of perceived value versus the movement's origins.
That's Sellita point.
Yeah.
You hear that a lot. It really divides people. Is it fair, though, if Bell & Ross puts all that work into the skeletonization and finishing, does the base matter that much? Or is the value in the final execution?
It really depends on what you value most. Is it the sheer novelty and prestige of a completely unique in-house caliber? Or is it the combination of a reliable, known quantity movement with the brand's specific aesthetic modifications and finishing? There's no single right answer. Some will appreciate the practicality and the brand's unique take on the skeletonization. Others will always prefer the perceived purity of in-house, especially at this level. It's a fundamental tension in modern watch collecting.
Okay, so let's talk price then. This limited edition Phantom.
Yeah.
What's the damage?
Officially, it's $8,900 on the rubber strap.
And the bracelet?
That bumps it up to $9,800 USD.
Right. And how does that compare to the standard one, the non-limited one from last year?
Interestingly, it's only $100 more.
$100 for the limited edition status and the different lume?
Yep. Just a $100 premium for the Phantom LE.
Okay. From a brand perspective then, this Phantom ceramic, it sort of feels like they took their greatest hits, the BR-05 design, the ceramic case, the skeleton dial, the Phantom colors, and just blended them all together. Crowd pleaser.
You could certainly frame it that way. It ticks a lot of popular boxes for Bell & Ross fans. However,
I sense a but coming.
well, some critics might argue, and perhaps fairly, that it feels a bit unimaginative.
As in, maybe a bit predictable.
Potentially. The argument goes that this variation, this Phantom version, really could have, or maybe should have, just launched last year alongside the original black ceramic models.
It's just another color option, not a separate LE launch a year later.
Exactly. Releasing it now as a limited edition with such, let's be honest, minimal technical changes, it does raise questions about what constitutes a genuinely new release versus, say, a strategic lineup extension. Is the limited status enough justification?
Yeah, I see the point. It's blurring the lines a bit.
It highlights that tension, again relying on strong brand signatures versus pushing genuine novelty.
Okay, so wrapping this up, this deep dive really hammered home how even the tiniest details, like the color of lume, can define a product, especially in watchmaking. It's like a high-stakes game of spot the difference.
Absolutely. And really paying attention to these nuances helps you appreciate not just the watch itself, but the thinking behind it, the branding, the value signals, how companies position things. It trains your eye.
It really does. So for you listening, thinking about all this, what does new or special really mean when variations are this subtle? How do brands juggle sticking to what works, their iconic looks, with that constant pressure to innovate, or at least appear innovative?
It's a tricky balance.
What do you find most interesting about a brand releasing something so close to what came before, hinging it on such a tiny detail? Is it smart marketing, playing it safe, or something else entirely? Definitely something to chew on.